just a fake silhouette, avoiding every threat. I wanna stay like a silhouette, but I can't do that. No, I can't do that.
Hey internet friends, everyone knows my favorite website for fact-checking is Snopes. They are absolutely not biased in any way, and they're basically my outlet of truth in a world of lies. Not only do they debunk stories before they're ever formally investigated, so I have outlined talking points to help me navigate through any situation, but I'm sorry, what was that? You've heard me smack talk Snopes and all their cats in previous videos? No, that was the old me. That was who I was before I went to the Re-Education Center. Do you think the YouTube algorithm is still listening in, or can we just get on with the show? Before Snopes was ever Snopes, the site was used as an online encyclopedia known as the Urban Legends Reference Pages, created by husband and wife David and Barbara Michelson in 1994. The name eventually changed to Snopes, Snopes being the name of a family of characters who appear throughout the works of American writer William Faulkner. According to David, the user base eventually went from emailing questions about urban legends to emailing questions about politics. So organic, just a natural progression. One of the biggest stories they began fact-checking early on was 9/11. This is how Snopes became a fact-checking site utilized by mainstream media journalists and the average person typing in a question in the search bar. And the site eventually became so well known and respected that they partnered with Facebook to check news stories on its platform. They're part of the reason why, in the age of fake news, if the average person or page on Facebook posts a story that's blurred out warning you that the story is fake, you can attribute that censorship to the fact-checking organizations Facebook uses like Snopes, an arbiter of truth in a world of lies, an arbiter of presumed neutrality. So much public trust and money is placed into Snopes. Yet somehow very little is known about how the operation actually runs. How many folks work at Snopes? What are their political leanings? Who funds the website? Who decided to make it an urban legends hoax debunking website and authority on truth of every genre? Some of these questions we can answer in this video, but some of these questions just lead to more questions. Let me begin with an article by Daily Mail published in December of 2016. The article served as an expose on one of the most respected fact-checking brands on the internet, detailing the inner workings of the Snopes organization, winding through David and Barbara's messy divorce, and after bringing forth the dark details, dared to ask the question, how could Snopes possibly be trusted to bring us the truth? Daily Mail is more of a tabloid newspaper, so one might tread lightly while absorbing any of their headlines. But in their article, they sourced their claims from a series of emails and documents from a court case. When a Forbes journalist reached out to David Michelson for comment on the Daily Mail article, he was shut down, saying there would be no further discussion because of legal reasons on matters of his divorce and how that affected business. So much for transparency, right? One of Daily Mail's claims was that at least one of Snopes' employees had ran for political office, which kind of destroys the illusion of neutrality in their fact-checking endeavors. After all, what if Snopes had hired fact-checkers from the Trump campaign or Fox News? Clearly that would imply political bias. If you have any strong political leanings, do you have any business in fact-checking? So why is Snopes hiring partisan employees? While David says the fact-checking process is highly collaborative, so much so that several folks may contribute to a single article, often only one author is listed for its fact checks, typically the person who wrote the initial draft. No mention of other individuals who collaborated. By design, this makes the audit process impossible. So once again, where is the openness? Where is the transparency in a reputable fact-checking organization that tells me what I can and can't post on social media? Everyone has bias. No person is infallible. Except for these fact-checkers, except for Snopes, who has put up a giant facade of neutrality, one that has served to micromanage public discussion, one that has served to tell us what is and isn't wrongthink. By nature, people are deeply flawed, even Snopes founder David Michelson, whose ex-wife claimed in legal documents that he embezzled $98,000 of company money and spent it on himself and prostitutes. He's since remarried to a former escort and porn actress who is one of the site's staff members. David had accusations of his own to sling back at his ex-wife, and eventually she sold her 50% stake in Snopes to Proper Media, a digital media company which provides advertising services for large-scale publishers. An article from 2018 relayed that Snopes had raised more than $835,000 on a GoFundMe campaign to engage in a legal battle over the site's ownership. Snopes does disclose their sources of funding on the website, but each time they do these crowdfunding campaigns, which they do often, the PayPal contributions are never listed as part of the publication. No one knows how it works internally, including me, said Brooke Binkowski, a former Snopes employee who was fired without warning. Fast forward to 2020, Snopes currently has 16 full-time staff, and the breakdown of their funding goes like this. A portion of Snopes' revenue is driven by advertising on the site. Presumably, these are majority Google advertisements, which probably works out pretty well for Snopes given that Google pushes them to the top of the search anytime there's a hot topic brewing. So you can assume that they get a pretty good click-through rate and return on ads. The top 5 shareholders of Google include Larry Page, Sergey Brin, Vanguard Group, BlackRock, and T. Rowe Price Associates. Of course, Larry Page and Sergey Brin were famously disgruntled with the outcome of the 2016 election. So one might assume their company culture was built on their own personal belief system and biases that affects something as simple as search results and rank. But as far as Vanguard goes, or BlackRock, or T. Rowe Price Associates, these are investment management companies that have a degree of separation between the investors and their investments. So I can't infer political leanings there. Another huge source of income for Snopes was their fact-checking partnership with Facebook. And of course, the top 5 shareholders of Facebook are Mark Zuckerberg, Vanguard, BlackRock, FMR, and T. Rowe Price Associates. So we have some overlap here, but nothing totally conclusive from this information alone. Other income is generated from crowdsourcing between reader contributions, GoFundMe, and PayPal. And again, how do you trace these donations? Well, I can't. Now that we're done with the money, power, and scandal portion of this video, I want you to know I don't really care about petty Jerry Springer-style divorce highlight reels, marriages to streetwalkers, or how many cats you can legally have under one roof. The only interesting thing I could really find about David came from his resume, which stated he worked at the NASA Jet Propulsion Laboratory and a few other NASA-adjacent companies, but doesn't list in what capacity. I associate NASA with Operation Paperclip, Warner Von Braun, Walt Disney, and I associate JPL with Jack Parsons, one of the founders of the program, who was a leading occultist at the time and Aleister Crowley follower. Which means he was into sex magic, part of the OTO Society, and close friends with Scientology's L. Ron Hubbard. Actually, now that I'm looking, David isn't the only person on his staff associated with NASA or JPL. To make matters even more illusory and magical, the financial records on the Snopes website begin with a one-time financial award from the James Randi Educational Foundation in 2016. An election year. The foundation was by magician and skeptic James Randi. Most of the other Snopes staff are remnants of MSM Publications, writers who migrated over from the Seattle Times, BuzzFeed, NPR, Motherboard, and The Atlantic. The main reason why I wanted to make this video was Snopes' treatment of a recent story, which you might have heard about. The basis of it is this. Wayfair, an online furniture store, is engaging in human trafficking via overpriced items on their website. Users noticed a selection of suspiciously priced and named items being sold on Wayfair, with the prices being astronomically high when compared to similar items or even the same product. And people began to wonder what's going on here. Users noted that a good number of the items were listed just after children were reported missing, with the item name corresponding to the missing children. One of these items in question was a cabinet, and Wayfair responded saying that the cabinets were industrial grade, thus the price. But there's other items that follow the same pattern, like pillows, so are the pillows also industrial grade too? Either way, about a day after this story propagated over Twitter, Snopes debunked the claim, basically saying that since Wayfair said they aren't engaging in trafficking, the story was false. And when you search for news on this Wayfair story, the first article that pops up is Snopes. And if you're lucky, you might get a Wayfair ad while you're reading your Snopes article. Again, Snopes debunked this story 24 hours after it went viral, stating that the story was false because a Wayfair spokesperson said so. And that was the end of it. That was the end of the investigation. So to debunk a claim, the source was the accused. There was no further inquiry into who put up the stock keeping unit or listing on the website. No further inquiry into why these listings were taken down within hours of being discovered, rather than price corrected or left up if it was a legitimate item. Snopes, come on, that is the correct method to go about debunking a story like this. And let me just say, while I am covering this story, I'm not endorsing it as true or false. There are numerous emerging details about Wayfair that certainly give me pause. Like Niraj Shah, CEO of Wayfair, who is also a director at the Federal Reserve Bank of Boston. Or how a handful of Wayfair corporate leaders all worked for the notorious Bain & Company, one of the big 3 management consulting firms in the United States known for taking over a company and leaving the shell, installing their own people as management, which I've covered in a previous video. There's Soros money in Wayfair. Heck, there's even a Clinton connection. The gang's all there. I guess it could be real. I guess it could be human trafficking. A business that earns profits of roughly $150 billion a year for traffickers, with roughly 800,000 children reported missing each year in the United States alone. Then again, we could also be witnessing a popular method of money laundering, or we could be witnessing absolutely nothing at all. And this entire story could just be a red herring, meant to further discredit future claims surrounding human trafficking or serving as a distraction from the ongoing Maxwell case and what lies on the Anthony Weiner laptop. I've used this one example, but you see, this is just par for the course with Snopes. I could cite many instances where their articles are based in nothing. Their references lead to nowhere. I considered not even making a video about them because people like David Michelson are just Bill Gates' GMO mosquitoes in the wind. Hardly even worth mentioning. It's not like I think Snopes shouldn't exist, but in a less dystopian, less corporate, less tyrannical reality, there would be no fact-checking thought police forced on the populace. It is not necessary. But at the end of the day, Snopes is a media company, part of the propaganda machine that manufactures consent, limiting what is considered acceptable opinion, where debate is only allowed within the little black box of pre-approved talking points. At the heart of the well-oiled media machine is manipulation. It is my opinion that anything Snopes publishes serves the purpose of keeping you passive, encouraging you not to contribute to the conversation, not do your own research, merely look to them for the truth. And their truth will be amplified by whatever talking head is on the news that night and ring through the speakers of your television so that you may repeat what you heard, believing what you said was your own independent thought. What do you think, internet friends? You know I always look forward to your comments. Thank you so much for watching, subscribing, and supporting my channel on Patreon. Bye!
I'm just a fake silhouette, avoiding every threat.